This is video 1 of 2 today because you guys just absolutely destroyed the like button on the last video. So I've already started working on a new video for today, but oh my god, thank you guys so much for the support. It's been insane. So you know what, let's keep that going. The goal for this video, within 24 hours, let's get to 4,000 likes. If we get there, there'll be a video on Big Mom and Kaido tomorrow. So guys, let's try to keep this going because it's incentive from not only me to make videos, but also for you guys to support. I know you guys support anyway, and thank you so much, but it's also a fun way for us to just interact with each other, right? But on to this amazing chapter. I'm not lying to you. I've read this chapter almost 10 times already because I'm so fascinated with everything that's happening and going on. It's a lot of moving parts here, but we're going to get into it. I was having a discussion with some of my friends before the chapter dropped, and I thought to myself, or I asked them, what do you guys think if we have more samurai get introduced before the end of the chapter or before the end of the arc? Because at this point, it feels like Kaido doesn't have anyone on his side. So what if we get more samurai? And in this chapter, that's exactly what they did. Before we get to that, Orochi's actually fuming because of the people escaping his grasp. And that was one of the issues I had with everything that transpired in 950. Oda completely went away from the capital, and a lot of things were happening there. Things were super interesting over there, and of course we go to Udon, and not saying Udon isn't interesting, but it wasn't as interesting at the time in comparison to what was going on in the capital. Another thing that was happening was the Law and Hawkins interaction. We went away from that as well. Of course, we're seeing more of that in this chapter, but Oda keeps moving away from the things that we truly care about. Of course, Udon is important, and how Udon wrapped up, you can't really be upset with it because Luffy had a shining moment. Kid had his moment as well, so everybody kind of got a small moment to shine, but we wanted to see how they got away from everyone in the capital. And Orochi's somewhat echoing the sentiments, saying from right under your noses, like, you guys had them and all of them got away. But to Fukurokoji's credit, he did a good job of assuring Orochi that everything is okay. The thing is, Luffy is already in Udon prison and he should already be captured, so they should be sitting good. What they don't know is Luffy has already taken control of Udon prison, so things are not nearly as good as he thinks. I wonder how that reaction is going to be once they find out that Luffy is actually taking control of Udon. And I'm not going to get too deep into the Queen stuff at the end of the chapter yet, but for Queen being as thorough as he is, it's funny that he just left everything to Old Maid the way that he did, because knowing everything you know about Luffy, and even Orochi speaking to it, or at least Fukurokoji, Law and Luffy, they're kind of top tier masterminds. Based on everything that they have done throughout their pirate career, they're top tier level threats, and you left a top tier level threat with Old Maid. It's hard to fathom that, but let's get back to the good stuff. The most intriguing thing here, I think, between the interaction between Orochi and Fukurokoji is the fact that Law could possibly become like Killer. I think it's very possible for them to convert Law into what Killer is. You can force him to eat the smile devil fruits, the leftover devil fruits, for him to turn into like one of those people from Bisu Town. But what I'm thinking is, how would that work with his current devil fruit? I threw this out there, but I don't think this is the type of story in which Oda does this, in which he kills off Law off screen, in which Law and Luffy, of course Luffy, he's gonna find out at some point about Law because that's another part to it. But if Law does turn into the caricature that Killer is right now, I think it makes things a bit more real for Luffy. Don't get me wrong, I know Luffy's already motivated. He has Tama, Momo, it's a lot of things he's motivated to do. However, nobody actually super close to him has been affected by this as yet. He just met Momo. He just met Tama. Law saved his life, and they've had interactions for a while, from Punk Hazard to Dressrosa, now to Wano, Zoe. So Luffy's closer to Law than Momo and Tama. If something was to happen to Law, Luffy would take that very personally, and that's part of the reason why Law says not to tell Straw Hat, because we know Luffy, if he finds out anything had happened to Law, no matter what, he's going to save Law, and that's going to ruin the plan. And for Law, he knows that the plan is more important. So Law is actually a great soldier to have, or at least a great right-hand man, because he's willing to sacrifice himself for the plan. Similar to Zoro, of course, this is not the same vein because Zoro is willing to sacrifice himself for Luffy's dream. But for Law, if you have someone like that following you, obviously he would do the same thing. And Law's personality off the rip, of course, he's a great analytical guy. I think he'd be an amazing right hand for someone like Kid or even Luffy. I think Luffy's good. Luffy has Zoro. But think about Ben Beckman and what he presents for Shanks. He mellows Shanks out. He's a smart person on Shanks' crew. Logistically, he's probably the person they turn to. But when it gets down to it, Shanks is obviously the strong one that has to take down the big bad guys. But Ben Beckman is the analytical one. Law can be that for a captain. Law would be a perfect balance to Luffy. even more than Zoro just because of what Law brings to the table. I don't want to get too into that because that may be a video topic. Would Law be a better right-hand man than Zoro? But I think Law's qualities that we've seen, he has so many redeeming qualities so far based on what we've seen from Punk Hazard, Dressrosa, and now Zoe and now Wano. Law is just a phenomenal character. But quickly about the new samurai that were introduced, the Mimawarigumi, and they're patrolling the streets. And we have some pretty cool designs, right? And I don't know how strong these people are going to be. I expect them to be moderately strong. One of the characters in the middle, he looks a bit like Shitenmaru. I'm not sure if he could have some level of importance. You know, Oda does these things where the character that's in front and seems to have like somewhat of a cool looking design, he's going to be more important than the rest. So I expect something from this guy, but who's to say? Because the samurai of Wano so far, I don't think they've lived up to the hype that we expected. To be frank, we expected a lot stronger samurai. Of course, Mihawk is the pinnacle of what the samurai are. Shitenmaru, he's impressive as well, probably around commander level. But let's go back to Akainu really quickly. And when Kizaru said he would pull up to Wano to somehow stop Big Mom and Kaido from doing whatever they wanted to do, Akainu said, no, you can't go, not because of Big Mom and Kaido, but because we're not sure of the samurai that's in Wano. So I think the samurai, they have a reputation around the world that they are monsters and super impressive, and we're there, and that's not what we've seen so far. Of course, the people of the Alliance, they're not scrubs. Luffy's not a scrub, Law's not a scrub, Zoro, Sanji, these guys are powerful characters. So even characters that are considered powerful in the grand scheme of things, they could look pretty subpar or average in comparison to Luffy and those guys. Think about Urashima and Hold'em, just to name a few. Those guys, they can't compare to Luffy or some of the top tiers on the Alliance. However, the samurai need to show more, and I think Oda introducing more samurai gives them a chance of that. It makes a lot of sense. So I'm hoping we see some great stuff from the samurai. But these new samurai, they're trying to find the people that escaped, and they're patrolling the streets. They're somewhat like the military police of the Wano country. Sanji and Shinobu had some great dialogue here in the chapter in which they talked about the prisoners that were captured. And we said for a moment that Yasuo did a good thing by saying that he's the witching hour boy and all these things were fake so that Orochi could possibly release the prisoners. We didn't factor in Orochi's personality. And it was so clear in the chapters when he was exposed or laughed at by Toko. Embarrassment is something that's important to him. He doesn't like that. He doesn't like people laughing at him. He doesn't like people talking about him. So anything that could make him look in a negative light, he's not going to stand by that or let it go easily. So for him admitting, like they said, he made a mistake by capturing these people, it would never happen because of his ego. That's been built up for 2 decades, having someone like Kaido behind you. I think the main thing here that we have to find out in Wano, I'm sure we're going to find out before it ends, is why Orochi? Why would Kaido choose to back someone like Orochi for so long? Is it because of his savage-like tendencies to convert people and make them slaves using leftovers? Because we saw Kaido's reaction to what he did to some of those people, and he was like, well, damn, that's kind of crazy. But why does Kaido choose to back him? Because we know Orochi's taking full advantage of the situation, but what does Kaido get out of it? Maybe just having someone subservient to you and is going to do whatever you want them to do is just enough for Kaido, because occupying Wano is on the basis of his strength, not Orochi's. So I'm super interested in when that gets revealed. I thought the wanted posters were hilarious, and the fact that they didn't work when Robin and Usopp and Frank were trying to get in, it's perfect because they have them in a typical like Japanese art style, and Shinobu doesn't look anything like her poster. And for Beppo, they just said white bear, right? Whereas like, of course, if you see a white bear, it's not that many walking around in Wano or walking around the world at all. So you're gonna know what the white bear is. And Sanji, I mean, it's close enough, but I just think it's funny the art style that Oda chooses to use here. It's somewhat like, remember when Kanjuro drew that dragon that Robin super cared about? Is that art style, that Japanese, that unique art style that's somewhat exaggerated, but you can kind of tell who it is. I thought it was hilarious because Oda is really playing into that gag, that face gag that he made when Luffy got captured, and the Straw Hats or a few characters made to Luffy getting captured. So another intriguing part is Yasui's last message and everything he left behind. I went back and I compared the images and it looked like he drew 2 lines at the end of the snake. So they somewhat look like handlebars now. Anybody's guess as to what that could mean, but obviously the people all knew what it meant. So it must be something that meant a lot back then. And of course, it's going to get revealed to us sometime soon. So we can speculate as to whatever it could be, but I doubt we're going to guess it because it's just so vague. I mean, we could stumble upon it, but we can't really tell based off just that. Now back to Hawkins and Law. I think everything that transpired between them has been super interesting, and I plan on talking about Hawkins at some point because I think he's been one of the more impressive supernova or impressive characters in Wano. And Hawkins, from what we can tell, is a straight shooter. And in this chapter, it continued. He took Law to get his crewmates. Hawkins. I think the dialogue here had people hopping off the Hawkins bandwagon, and that's why people are so fickle, because I don't think Hawkins did anything wrong here. He was just honest. And it's funny because I just spoke glowingly about Law, but in this situation, Hawkins said that for Law, if his crewmates did not want to leave, Law was willing to cut down his crewmates to kill Hawkins, which I'm not sure if this speaks to how Law despises Hawkins or how he hates being controlled and manipulated, because essentially that's what Doflamingo was trying to do to Corazon, to have him use the Opi no Mi to make him immortal or ageless or whatever you want to call it. So for Law, I'm sure he absolutely despises being manipulated. So for him at that point, also to save the plan that he has with the Straw Hats and the Alliance, he was willing to cut down his crewmates to get to Hawkins. I get it, but it's somewhat contradictory because Law went with Hawkins for his crew. If you're willing to go that far, then you should have not cared about the crew in the first place and said, you know what, it doesn't matter. Because honestly, not having Law with the crew or with the Alliance hurts more than having his crewmates. With Law and certain tendencies that he has, he just does things like he said. Remember when Sasuke, when he saved Naruto, Naruto asked him, why did you do it? He said, I just moved, I don't know. And for Law, when he saved Luffy, he kind of gave the same thing like, oh, I just felt like it. So for Law saving his crewmates here, of course, they're his crew, but Law understands his importance to the success of this plan. So for him doing that, and then Hawkins saying he would cut his crew down to get to him, I'm really curious about the thought process of Law at this point. But this also speaks to Law's strength, where Hawkins knows that he had to put Law in a compromising situation for him to even have a chance to get what he wants. But I think Hawkins wants more than just to get information out of Law. I think it's a deeper underlying tone here, or underlying theme or message about what Hawkins wants here. But there was some cryptic dialogue as well, where Hawkins says that it's scary, or it shouldn't be surprising that I feel intimidated by someone who doesn't take the future into account. It's speaking to the fact that Law at this point does not care. He's playing with house money, and we kind of felt the same way after Doflamingo went down, where that was Law's goal. He still has somewhat of a goal of finding out more about the will of D, but Law's goal was to take down Doflamingo. Of course, Dofi isn't dead, but he wanted to rid the people of Dressrosa and just rid people of Doflamingo in general, and that got done. And for Hawkins, as much as he depends on the tarot cards and fortuitous intervention, if you want to call it that, seeing someone that doesn't care about the future, I'm sure that must scare him. So I wonder how he's going to be when he interacts with Luffy and those guys, because Luffy damn sure don't care about the future. He's been giving up lifespan since the beginning of the series. So for Luffy, he doesn't care about the future. He's all about right now. And that's what the people of D are. They care about right now, so they're just willing to do whatever it takes to get things done right now. But I think it's interesting how Oda keeps using the future and tying in, we had Future Sight last arc. We know in One Piece and the will of D and bringing about change, and the D will bring a storm, and how they're going to impact the future. I'm so interested in the Void Century and just the will of D overall, because Oda is playing with things here. He's using these things in context to kind of tell a deeper story. Because we can even think about Lady Toko, in which she has the time fruit, which she can't go back. She can only go into the future. The future is like the important theme of like this Yonko saga, because even with Kaido and Big Mom now, they're kind of the past. And Luffy, Kid, Law, those guys, Blackbeard, they're the future. I'm really interested in where Oda goes with this, because Oda does these things from time to time where it's not as overt, but they're underlying things that you can pick up on, that you can tell or somewhat hint towards what's going to happen in the future. See, I did it again. I didn't even know it. I just did it. Hawkins releases like Law's crew, and Law's crew at this point, I'm not sure how to feel about them, because they're looking so unimpressive. And this goes back to how I feel about the Supernovas in general, in which Luffy, his crew is just so far and away the best crew that we know of. Kid's crew is the only other crew that stands a chance or comes close or holds a candle at least, because he has another crewmate that's a part of the Supernova. Other than that, it's just like, you have your captain right in front of you. There's 4 of you, and then the entire crew is there, and they're like, well, we can't let our captain get caught. Bro, you're the reason why he got caught, because you were just too weak. But Law telling them not to tell Luffy, it makes sense. Luffy is just going to be abrasive, and he's going to do whatever it takes to get Law back, because he cares about Law. He views Law as a friend, so Luffy, that's just how Luffy is. His crew even goes on to say, we feel bad, but we value our captain over the plan. I mean, yeah, I hear you, but there's nothing you can do. You're the one that were too weak. And it's just, his crew seems to be just a bunch of surgeons, people that support his doctoring. Like, bro, they have been so unimpressive. If you go back to Zoe and John Bart, he was getting owned by one of the gorillas in Zoe. Like, I don't even know anymore. But Law's crew, he needs to bulk up. He needs to bolster his crew in some way. I know for a moment I thought like Pedro would join his crew or somebody from the Minks to kind of bolster it for him to have a chance to compete against Luffy and Kid and those guys. No, I don't know. Law's role going forward in the story, it's something that I'm not sure was going to happen because Law going off screen here, he's definitely getting tortured. So we may see a whole different Law by the time we see him again. And again, we've been talking about Law betraying Luffy for a while now, and I like how Oda's tying it into the story where Law is doing it, but it's against his will per se. And if he gets tortured and he gets to smile and all that stuff, then Law is going to come back as an adversary, and fighting Law, that's going to be kind of crazy because we know the devastating power of the OP no Mi. And a lot of people sleep on Law and say that he's not impressive, he has stamina issues. Law fought Doffy and Fujitora, then went on to fight Doflamingo, then went on to support Luffy, save the Straw Hats, all in the same day while not getting a break, eating or anything, getting shot, getting his arm cut off. He had a room so big that Doflamingo couldn't even see it. So Law does not have stamina issues. Law was just really pushed to the edge because the Straw Hats were just fuck ups. Like that's just the simplest way I can put it. And he was saving their asses time and time again and playing support. So Law is, again, one of the most amazing characters in One Piece, and Oda just continues to make him shine. I do not think Hawkins did anything wrong here. I do not feel any differently about Hawkins. I felt that way before. I did not think Hawkins could beat Law anyway. So for people that felt like Hawkins could just overwhelm Law, Hawkins is a strategic character, and I think his competency and him being a realist speaks even more to the beauty of his character because he's telling you like it is. He's like, all right, this guy could probably take me down, so I'm just doing whatever it takes to get the job done, which at the end of the day, he got the job done. So for me, Hawkins is still fucking amazing. So now in Ibisu town, I guess Orochi allowed them to take Yasui's body, which is kind of surprising, but they took Yasui's body and they're taking him to Kuri to have a proper memorial service. I'm surprised Orochi's letting that happen, seriously. Kanju's there, and of course they're still sad because Yasui was a huge figure and he sacrificed everything, literally his life, for this moment. And I'm glad that he's staying dead because that was something that I felt like was super impactful, not solely on the readers, but I think on the characters overall. And that was a point of Oda sacrificing Yasui and telling us about him and everything he did, because I know people are complaining that Yasui's death wasn't as impactful and Oda kind of did it the wrong way, quote unquote. But I don't think the point of Yasui was for us to feel much for him, but for the characters that we care about to feel for him, because Zora spent time with him. We know Kurosaki and how she felt about Otoko. So it was to make us see the impact of his actions, right? I don't think Yasui as a character specifically was to make us cry or anything, but just to let us know the significance of his existence and everything he sacrificed for the cause. And I think Oda did a good job at that. But yeah, everybody's on their way to Kuri. We keep seeing these wanted posters that are, like, again, funny because they look nothing like the characters, and so much so that they could get past guards looking directly at the posters by just putting a different face on. So a kind of morbid moment is when we got to the boat wharf, or rather the southwestern abandoned port. Those apparently are the ships that Shushinmaru's people traveled on and got annihilated by Kaido. They were worn out and they obviously need fixing up, but the ships were destroyed by Kaido. Of course, Kaido, we know he can breathe dragon breath, so more than likely that's what he did to a lot of these ships. But Shushinmaru being there, it was kind of, you know, those are the people, or those are the ships that transported his people. And you can even see in the ships, you see the Kozoki crest all throughout the ship. So it's a sad moment because it's kind of a reflection of everything these people went through. Like, they sacrificed their lives in the name of Kozoki. And so being there at that moment, again, it must have been tough for Shushinmaru. Now it gives Frankie something to do, because Frankie was just running around trying to find blueprints that, I don't know, at this point with the Straw Hats, blueprints are not going to matter because they're going to just fuck shit up anyway. But Frankie now has to repair all these ships, and that's what Frankie does best. The best part of the chapter, or the most hype part of the chapter, is towards the end, because we got to go to Onigashima. We get there and they're feeding Big Mom, and initially it was like, why would they be feeding Big Mom? But I think when they initially got there, they told Kaido, hey, we have Big Mom, and Kaido said to feed her because we know Kaido, he kind of owes a debt to Big Mom. But before that, we see panels of Jack, King, and Queen, and Jack didn't say anything. King is saying, well, I definitely pushed her ship off the waterfall. And Queen is saying, like I referenced earlier, King, how dare you do such a half-assed job? Which to me, I'm like, Queen, you did a half-assed job by leaving Old Maid there. To Queen's defense, he took care of the top priority, which was Big Mom, and getting her to Onigashima ASAP. So for him, he did the best that he could at the time, which speaks to Queen's character, which I think so far he's been the most impressive commander in Wano, because he's thorough and it seems like he goes about things in a methodical way. Which, remember, after Big Big Mom fell out, he said wrap chains around her, sea stone, injector, all this stuff so that we can get to Onigashima. Now, Big Mom has a thick skin of, she's an iron balloon, so I'm not sure how they were able to do that, but that's besides the point. Maybe they weren't able to do it because Big Mom is up and at him already, but Big Mom is a freak, so that could be anything. Jack asks Queen, like, why did you bring her here? And Queen says, shut the hell up. Like, what the hell was I supposed to do? Communication was down, and this is a Yonko, Pirate Queen Big Mom, or let me relax. Yonko, the first queen of the seas. I don't know, I'm making up these fucking titles. Big Mom. What the hell do you want me to do? I have to bring her to somebody that can somewhat handle her in our boss Kaido. Shit gets really intriguing because Big Mom says to King, hey, I'll forgive your behavior from yesterday if you join my crew. The dialogue even after that is even more crazy because she says, there are still 3 races missing from my country. One of those was supposedly extinguished from history itself, but you are alive and standing here. And King just calmly says, I refuse. That's the whole speculation. A lot of people care about this more than anything else in the chapter. And I'm of the same vein, of the same thought process. Like, what the hell is King? The 3 races I'm thinking obviously is giants. People are saying Tontatas. But for King, the 3rd one could be anybody's guess. But for King, people are speculating so many things, right? One is that King is a Tengu, like Hitetsu, in which King and the wings and everything he has is going to be that. Another theory is that King is a Valkyrie and that he's the last remaining Valkyrie. We don't know about them yet. Another theory is that King is a Birkin, of course, one of the people from Sky Island that no longer exist. The Tengu thing, we know they have long noses. King has his face covered, so that could be something where he cut his nose off because he didn't like it. We don't know. The Birkin thing is that the Birkin's wings are comparatively smaller. Like we saw Aruj, he's a Birkin, and for him, his wings are a lot smaller than King's. King's wings are huge, and King can actually fly. Of course, he's a pterodon, so much speculation because for Big Mom asking King that, people are like, oh, does she not believe in Katakuri anymore? But it seems like she just wants to meet her quota of having every race on Whole Cake Island. I'm super intrigued. I can't wait till we figure out what King is because it's going to deepen the lore of One Piece. And I think more than anything, I'm always interested in the lore of One Piece because that's the most interesting thing next to like the power scaling and the fighting, of course. I really wish that we didn't have to go on break next chapter and Oda would just go straight to it and tell us about King's backstory. But we know that's not how Oda does things, right? He's going to stretch this out until like when King fights his final battle and then he's getting beat up so much that he has to take all this shit off so he can actually breathe, some weird thing like that. And then all of a sudden we get the backstory on King because obviously we're going to see his true form or his true face, his true nature. And I can't wait for that. Oh my God, that's going to be so amazing. Oda, this chapter is so flames and it's not the end. So Big Mom just says, oh, that's unfortunate, but remove these chains. And Queen, he seems to be the more animated one out of all the commanders, right? Because he said, how can you be so casual about removing those? We're not removing them, you old hag. And it's funny that Queen can say that after the ass whooping that he got. The subordinates around Big Mom, they're saying, yo, just listening to them is making my legs wobbly. Like being in the presence of these strong characters is messing with my equilibrium. Like just having those amazing characters around me is messing with me, bro. Just amazing stuff. But as we continue, they're like talking to themselves now because they're like, yo, you know, Big Mom and Kaido used to be in the same crew? And all of a sudden Kaido comes, hey, release her. What do you think you're doing? And they're like, Lord Kaido. Big Mom is saying, well, Kaido told you to take him off. Just take him off. And the subordinate is saying, well, of course he was joking. Kaido's like, nah, I wasn't. Take him off. I absolutely love that because that just speaks to the epicness and just how dominant Kaido is as a person or as a character, which he feels like, I don't care who you are. You can pull up, take your chains off. I don't even want to beat your ass with your chains. Take them off because I'm confident in my strength and I know you can't take me here. So no, take her chains off, feed her, make sure she's good, and I'ma pull up. Because at the end of the day, I'm motherfucking Kaido. The dominance, fucking alpha male, bro, just epic. The chains come off. And Big Mom says, man, how many decades has it been? Which speaks to like how long Yonko don't really interact with each other. Then all of a sudden out comes Napoleon. And Napoleon had a weird thing as to why he didn't come out the entire time. He said he was shy in front of strangers. And he didn't have any idea how to handle the situation back then, so he just remained quiet. People had some issue with it, but I think it makes a lot of sense because what the hell would Napoleon do in the face of a bunch of strangers and a bunch of enemies that don't know Big Mom or know Big Mom, but Big Mom doesn't even know herself. So even if he reveals himself to Big Mom, she probably doesn't even know what to do with him. So the best thing to do is to remain just neutral or calm and act like a regular hat or like you're asleep as well, where you don't pose a necessary danger or threat to the people that are currently with Big Mom, so they don't have to discard you or do anything unnecessary to your queen. So I think Napoleon did the best thing that he could because honestly, he didn't have that many options. But moving forward, the heavens split again and Big Mom and Kaido, they clashed. Big Mom says, well, Kaido first says, I told you I would kill you if you came here. And Big Mom says, as if there's a fool that would come just to be killed. And again, the heavens parted, and we saw a clash between the Yonko Big Mom and the Yonko Kaido. So it's a few things here. Not only is this epic, it's a huge shout out or homage to when Shanks met with Whitebeard. Remember when Shanks met with Whitebeard? Not only did he harm the ship with his haki, he asked Marco to join his crew. Marco obviously refused. And then they had a conversation, and then Whitebeard and Shanks clashed and the heavens parted. Big Mom and Kaido, they got right to the shits. And I think this is just how Yonkos greet each other. I was saying also that for Luffy and Kaido, this speaks to how Luffy and the level that he has to get to, because for a Yonko, and I think to be acknowledged by the Yonko, you have to be able to clash with a Yonko. And Luffy at this point obviously cannot clash with a Yonko. Even when he clashed with Big Mom casually flung him away. Where Luffy has to get to that level where a Yonko swings at you and you can take it. Remember when Doflamingo was about to kill Law, Luffy stopped it. Katakuri is about to swing, he matched Katakuri. So Luffy has to grow some more and get stronger to be acknowledged by his peers. Because right now they don't view him as such, because he can't do something as simple as a greeting where they greet by simply clashing. I mean, of course, Whitebeard and Shanks didn't greet that way, but I think it's just a way in which you test your mettle. Because I think after this, they're going to actually have a conversation about the Rocks Pirates and everything that's going to transpire going forward. And they may actually ally to take down whatever's going on. The problem here is that they both have the same things in mind. They want the same thing. They both want Luffy. So how do you divvy it up? Like, do you have a bet, like whose crew captures Luffy first? You get to take him. Because at the end of the day, as bad as they want to capture Luffy, they would offer Luffy a position on their crew because that's an asset. As amazing as Luffy has been throughout the story, they know that. As Kaido said, well, they're just supernova, they're playing little pirate games. You still want a kid on your crew. You still wanted Luffy on your crew. You were trying to break them to add him to your crew. What's weird is that Orochi now is going to try to torture Law to add him to his group. So we're going to see how that plays out. Regardless, a 10 out of fucking 10. This chapter was amazing. It's on break next week because the magazine is on break, not Oda. So unfortunately, we don't get to see what happens next week. But I'm going to keep you guys updated as far as like a bunch of content coming out. Again, our goal, 4,000 likes in 24 hours, and we get a video tomorrow. Of course, another video is coming out today because you guys absolutely dominated that like button in the last video. Thank you so much for your support. If you'd like to see my live reactions to the chapters when they come out, because I react to them as soon as they come out, early as hell in the mornings, go to my other channel, Brago Diaz. For updates, follow me on Twitter at Brago Diaz as well. For more personal stuff, follow me on Instagram at bragod.ace. And yeah, shout out to all my patrons. Thank you guys for your support. Like the video. Again, please be sure to subscribe for more content like this, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.